Okay, so thanks, Dan. And again, I'm Brad Harbison. I'm the senior digital editor here at for PCT. And it's my pleasure to be a part of this year's Rodent Control virtual event. And I'm happy to introduce this year's my next speaker, who's Hal Coleman. And a lot of folks in the industry know Hal. He's a well-known industry speaker, consultant, mentor, and coach to thousands of PMPs throughout North America. A little bit about his background. So after turning his one-man pest control business into a $1 million enterprise, Hal turned his attention to become a coach and a trainer, becoming a mentor that he wished he had when he was kind of starting out in the business. And so now it's our privilege to have him as a part of our conference, and he's going to share some of his insights into marketing rodent control services. So with that, we'll turn things over to Hal.
Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this a lot. I wish I had 4.5 days instead of 45 minutes, but yeah, talking about rodents, that's a favorite topic of mine. And when I had I'm actually in my 47th year in the pest control industry. I've been dealing with rodents off and on for most of that time. And the question that I've been proposed is, how do we get more rodent business? How do we sell more rat jobs, more squirrel jobs? You know, Ralph Waldo Emerson back in the 1800s said, I'm sure you've heard the saying, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. Well, not if they don't know you have it. If they don't know you have it, they won't beat a path to your door. And you build a better mousetrap, they have to clearly understand why your mousetrap is better than all the other mousetraps. If you can't clearly convey that to them, then they don't see the difference in your mousetrap and anybody else's mousetrap. So they just keep buying the same cheap mousetraps. I hope that makes sense. So what we have to do, I'm not going to talk with you about technical things. I'm just going to talk with you about the philosophy of selling and apply it to selling more rodent control. If you want more people to buy rodent control from you instead of your competition, those people out there, that portion of those 360 million people who live in America that you can reach, have to understand why it would be a better choice to do business with you than your competition. You need what we call a unique selling proposition. What can they get from you that they can't get from your competition? What can you do for them that your competition cannot do for them or won't do for them or chooses not to do for them? They need to see that they can get more value from you than they can from your competition. So we call that a unique selling proposition. And basically it's comparing apples to oranges. And when you're selling anything, whether it's pest control, rodent control, automobiles, dog grooming, lawn care, candles, it doesn't matter. You need to be always comparing apples to oranges when you're selling. And an example of this is, let's assume that somebody walks over to the farmer's market to get some apples, and there's 10 people out there selling apples, and they all have their apples in a row, and they're selling, they have half bushels and quarter bushels of apples. And you look at all the apples and they all look the same. I said, well, I came here to get some apples. And everybody's apples look the same. I don't really know any of these people, but their prices are different. So I might as well just buy the cheapest apples. That makes sense to me. And that's generally what happens. So all of a sudden along comes somebody who sits down and talks to these people and who are looking at the apples and says, you know what? You don't want to spend your money on apples. You want to buy oranges. And here's why. Oranges are so much better than apples. I mean, they are just in a totally different world from apples. You take one, you cut a hole in an orange, you can suck the juice out, you can squeeze it, you can slice it up, you can put it in water, you can make orange juice. But as soon as you take a sip of that orange juice, you're just hit with this explosion. Your taste buds just go crazy. Your senses are alive, and you think, oh my gosh. And you think of all the vitamin C, everything. You know, when you take a bite of an apple, the first thing you notice is you get the apple skin stuck in your teeth and you got to dig it out of there. And you start crunching on it. And then if you have dentures, you might take that thing away and your denture's stuck to it. You never know what's going to happen with apple. You can't squeeze them. You can't make juice out of them. You're very limited in what you get with an apple. So now the person says, all right, you got me convinced. I want to buy orange. I don't want to buy apples. I want to buy oranges. Where can I get oranges? I don't see any. And they says, well, I'm the only one who has oranges. And now this person comes and buys from you because you're the only one who had the oranges. So your job is really to convince everybody that oranges are better than apples. And then you're the only one who has the oranges. That's what we call a unique selling proposition. So in that answer to that question, why should I do business with you? What can I get from you that I can't get from everybody else? The answer to that question needs to be formulated. It needs to be a powerful, dynamic, compelling, seductive, hypnotic, and irresistible statement that shows somebody clearly why you're better than your competition when it comes to getting rid of rodents. And it leaves them just no choice but to say yes to you. And that answer to that question needs to be on the homepage of your website, on your ads, your brochures, your flyers, your door hangers, your business card, your vehicles, your oral sales presentations, your written presentations, your proposals, your closing. That answer to the question, why should you do business with me instead of all my competition? Here's why. Let me tell you 4 things that you're going to get from me that you can't get from them. Let me tell you 4 ways I'm better than they are. But most of us can't do it. And I spend my life talking to PCOs. I talk to them every day and have for years. And one of the questions I ask when they call to inquire about my coaching, well, tell me how you're different. Tell me, if somebody asked you, why should I do business with you? How do you answer that question? And it's generally almost invariably, well, because, you know, we do the job right. We come out and take care of you. We treat you like family. We're professionals, and we're going to get rid of the rodents for you. And we do a good job. And if I ask 50 companies that's generally kind of the answer I'm going to get. So basically, we're all apples. Everybody's telling everybody the same thing. Nobody has that, let me tell you what you can get from me that you can't get from them, and why you'd be making a much better choice to go with me. Once you do that, you can sell at a higher price than everybody else, and people will still choose you to do business with you because they see they get more value for their money doing business with you. Now, I had a mentor years ago named Larry Latimer. Larry spent his entire life selling. He trained insurance agents at MetLife to sell life insurance. He trained people all over the country to sell all kinds of things. He was a friend of mine, actually, and I became his student, and he became my mentor about 15 years ago. And we were sitting at a Waffle House one day talking about my pest control company. He asked me what I did to market my business, and I said, well, you know, I do all the things that everybody else does. Done a little bit of radio, a little bit of TV, networking, and he said, "You ever do any direct mail?" I said, "Yeah, I've done that. It was one of my biggest failures, you know." And I never had gotten big bangs for my buck with paid advertising, but he said, "Well, maybe you just didn't have the right message." I said, "What do you mean the right message?" He said, "Well, if it wasn't working for you, apparently you were doing something wrong." You know, I got a little irritated because it felt like he was going to begin to try to sell me something. But he said, "Let me give you an example of how to set yourself." We talked about the unique selling proposition, first time I'd ever heard that term. And he said, "Let me show you how this works. We'll do a little test with your company." I'm not going to charge you anything. He said, I'm just going to do this to illustrate a point. He said, what pest or what bug or what animal makes the hair stand up on the back of somebody's neck more than anything else if it gets in their home? I said, probably rats or snakes. He said, y'all do snake work? I said, no, not really. I said, snake gets in the house, I'll go get it out of there. He said, what about rats? Do you do rat work? I said, oh yeah, we do rat work. He said, would you like to have more rat work? I said, oh yes, I would like to have more rat work. Absolutely. He said, all right, so let's talk about rats. I'm going to show you how to get more rat work. He said, what do you do when somebody calls and says, I've got rats, and you go out there, what do you do? And I just off the top of my head, I said, well, you go out there, you look, see, do they have a rodent problem? You identify the rodent. You try to find out how it's getting into the house. You identify any damage it's done. You try to identify the food source, and then you decide what method you're going to use to eliminate the rodent problem, trapping, baiting, exclusion, both. And then you decide what kind of guarantee you're going to give them, or are you going to give them one or not? What kind of guarantee? I said, I guess that's about it. He said, well, you just held up 7 fingers. I said, I did? He said, yep, you had 7 fingers held up when you completed that story. He said, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home and I want you to write up what you just told me about how you go in and do this rat inspection. Write it all up as a letter description. And he said, but I don't want you to call it a rat inspection. He said, do other companies do rat inspections, pest control companies? I said, sure they do. Almost all of them do. And he said, well, then you no longer are going to do rat inspections. He said, you're going to come up with a name for this inspection you just did, but we're not going to call it a rat inspection. I want you to come up with a good name for it. 7 something. You held up 7 fingers. So I came up with the name of 7-point rodent survey and analysis of a home or structure. And the next day I had this letter written. I showed it. He said, oh, I love that title, 7-point rodent survey and analysis. He said, from now on, if anybody calls your office and they say, do y'all do rat work? We do. Can you come out and do an inspection? You're going to say, well, we don't actually do an inspection. We do actually a complete 7-point rodent survey and analysis of a home. And we present to you in writing what we find. And I thought people were like, oh, really? Wow. Yeah, well, I need that. I need that. So changing over from doing a rat inspection to doing a 7-point rodent survey and analysis of a home made people just choose us right there on the spot, because they'd been talking to other people and said, y'all come out and do a rat inspection? Yeah, we do inspections. We do inspections. But now they find somebody who does a complete 7-point rodent survey and analysis. So that is what we call framing. It's taking an inspection and putting it in a different frame so that it looks better. It looks more impressive. It sounds more impressive. It's the same thing. But finding a way to set yourself apart by framing yourself differently. And it works magic on that part of the brain that makes the buying decision. You see, the buying decision is actually made in the subconscious mind, not in the conscious mind. And most people don't really realize that. And so they speak to the conscious mind because that's the only way they meant to speak. And the conscious mind is not the decision maker. So, and we know that when we sit down to discuss a proposal with somebody with pest control, rodent control, or whatever, and you sit down at the closing table, you want to be sitting there talking to the decision maker, right? Because what happens if you spend an hour talking to somebody and going over your proposal and you found out that's not the decision maker? What have you just done? You just wasted an hour of your time. Well, knowing that the subconscious mind is the decision maker when it comes to purchasing anything, rodent control, when you sit down to talk with somebody or when you talk to them on the phone, who do you want to be talking to? You want to be talking to the subconscious mind, not the conscious mind. And most people don't really understand how to do it. And if they realize how stupidly simple it is to speak to the subconscious and how powerfully effective it is. And it's just by helping the subconscious makes decisions instantly. without having to think about it. So this is what we want to do when we try to sell rodent control, is we want to present it in such a way that their subconscious mind, Elmo, I call my subconscious mind Elmo. Elmo's with me everywhere I go. You've got an Elmo too. But you have to present it so that Elmo can say, oh, yeah, I see that. No, yes, let's do it. I see it. He doesn't have to think about it, because if he has to think about it, then you're dealing with the conscious mind, and that's not the decision maker. An example would be, if I ask you right now, is it daytime or nighttime where you are? You wouldn't have to look around and look at a clock or anything. You know whether it's daytime or nighttime where you are. If I ask you, am I wearing a red jacket or a black jacket? You wouldn't have to think about it and compare it to a color chart. You say, well, how you got on a black jacket? Do I have a flag on my lapel or not? Yes, I do. You don't have to think about these things. So setting yourself apart, why your mousetrap or your rodent service or your exclusion service is different than your competition. And here's why. Here's how it's different. We do this, we do this. And now their subconscious says, oh, I see that. It's absolutely right. I want an orange. I want that. That's what I want. Well, you can't get it from them because they don't offer it. We're the only company in town that offers this. And then that ends up on your website. And that message, that unique selling proposition, that message that tells people why they should do business with you and forget about everybody else, becomes your marketing drumbeat, your battle cry. It's everywhere. And every time you get in a conversation, or the person answering your phone in your office, somebody calls to talk about rodents, or they're hearing a noise in the attic, or they've seen something run across the basement floor, or they hear chewing at night. Your job is simply to lead the conversation into that question, why should I do it? So, yes, we can come out and do that. I'd like to tell you about our company. Say, we're not like other pest control companies when it comes to getting rid of rodents. Oh, you're not? No. There's actually 3 things that we do that other people don't do. And that message, all you got to do is get them to the message, get that message in their ear, and their subconscious says, yeah, I want to do business with these people. These people have really got it going on. So I'm going to move on here, but at the end of my presentation, that's the one thing I want you to take away, is that you got to be different than everybody else. You've got to offer people things that your competition doesn't offer. Because if you're just another apple in another basket, you're going to lose out to a lower price. And you're going to, the market's you're just going to get a smaller section of the market because you're just like everybody else. Something else that people don't take advantage of a lot when it comes to selling, and it applies to rodent control, pest control as much as anything else, is testimonials. Testimonials, what somebody else says about you is 1,000 times more powerful than what you say about yourself. And our judicial system here in America, you can be sent to prison based on what 2 people say about you in a court of law. Even if you're not guilty, you get 2 people that swear they saw you steal it, and you go to jail. So that's how powerful other people's words are. So if you want to sell more rodent control, get great testimonials from people you have done rodent control work for and who are thoroughly happy. And I'm not talking about Google reviews. That's a whole different thing. I'm talking about testimonials from people that you have solved a rodent problem for, and put those in your brochure. Leave them with people when you do a proposal. Send them to people and say, listen, don't listen to me. Here's some of my happy customers. Here, listen to what they have to say. Those testimonials will get you a lot of rodent work if they're testimonials from people you have done rodent work for. So be specific there. Offering a bold guarantee for your rodent work, a guarantee that others don't offer. That go above and beyond. And you know, I read research years ago about guarantees, and it's strange. The stronger, the longer, and the bolder you make your guarantee, the less people make a claim against your guarantee. Strange how that works. But if somebody buys a pair of shoes and you guarantee it for a week, you say, you know, if you got a 7-day guarantee, you can bring them back at the end of 7 days if you're not happy. A lot of people will bring them back because they panic. They say, well, they're not right. I don't think they're right. I don't want my guarantee period to run out, so I'm going to take these things back. But if you say, I guarantee you those shoes for life, for as long as you own them, if you're not happy with them, bring them back. And they're like, really? Yes. Nobody will ever bring them back. They forget about that, or they would have felt guilty anyway because they wore the shoes out. They don't bring them back. Or you can throw in, bring them back in the original box, you know, but the longer and bolder the guarantee is, the less people make a claim. So keep that in mind when you're guaranteeing rodent work. How can you place a guarantee on what you do so that you can say, you know, we've got a guarantee that's unmatched by any of our competition. And here's what it is. And you let your guarantee speak for you. There are so many things called, and another thing too, this doesn't work for everybody, but learn how to speak. Put together a good 20-minute presentation on rodent control and how important it is to have homes inspected on a regular basis for rodents in the attic. And you got all these civic groups like Rotary, Kiwanis Club, Lions Club, women's clubs, garden clubs, nature centers. All of these people are hungry for speakers. They have to have a speaker every time they meet. And when people come in and want to talk to them about things like rodent control, how to protect your home from something that could damage it or scare you to death or give you a disease, you can go in and get little speaking engagements. And when you stand up in front of people to speak in your community, you become an authority figure. See, you don't want to be known as an expert on rodents in your community. You don't want to be an expert. You don't want to be one of anything. You want to be the one. You want to be the authority on rodents. And when you get up in front of people and speak, or if you write an article, and a lot of times small town newspapers, radio stations, I got myself on the 6 o'clock news and the WSB radio here in Atlanta, one of the largest radio stations in the Southeast. I got myself on there quite a few times just by calling somebody and say, you know, there's a bad rodent problem. Did this once with rats in Atlanta. Said the rats are on the increase in Atlanta, which they were, and they're getting into homes and people don't know they're in the attics. We find them all the time, and homeowners need to know about this. They need to know what to look for in the attic. And the guy said, wow, this is great. Can you stop by? And I stopped by and he taped this whole interview with me and they played it on the 6 o'clock news. You can do things like that. Get on the internet, do videos, write blog articles, any kind of free publicity online and offline, do a podcast, getting yourself out there on the internet, and people find you and they find your articles, they watch your video, they listen to your podcast, and guess what? You're not an expert anymore. You are the authority. You become somebody that they turn to and that they respect and listen to. So these are just study selling. Study. You know, I've heard it said that, and I don't remember where I read this or heard it, but that 92% of salespeople have never even read one book on selling. So learning how to become a better salesperson to sell more rodent control work. The people in your office, when somebody calls in, can learning how to close the deals and get the appointment set. And when you get out to the house, you know before you turn in the driveway that you're going to make a sale, because you know that you are the orange, and you're going to go in there and you're going to convince those people that oranges are better than apples. And that's good. And the word gets out, you know that you're doing a good job in your community marketing yourself when somebody calls you and says, you don't know me, but I've got a rat problem, and Fred Johnson says that I have to do business with you. Now that's good. But it's great when they call you and say, yeah, you don't know me, but I've got rats in my attic, and Fred Johnson says I have to do business with you. And you don't have a clue who Fred Johnson is. Not a clue. But see, your message, your word has gotten out and spread that you are the authority. You're the person they read about. You're the person they saw at a Rotary meeting. You're the person that somebody else was talking about. Said, I think I'm worried this guy spoke at my meeting, going into schools and talking to kids about rodent problems. And you will be pleasantly surprised how many people will welcome you with open arms, because they're looking for speakers. They're looking for interesting people to come in. And another thing that I'll kind of wrap up here, and we'll see if we have any questions. But one place that salespeople selling pest control, see, we're blue collar guy. I'm a blue collar guy. Pest control is a blue collar industry. Most people that own pest control businesses started out killing bugs, like I did. And so we're not sophisticated salespeople like somebody who works at IBM or somebody who works for the CIA. Those people know things about selling that us blue collar folks don't know. But one thing that we kind of draw the line at is simply asking for the sale. This is monstrous. We talk to them about their rodent problem. We make our recommendation and we lay it all out, and they say, well, this looks good, I need to think this over, and thanks for coming by. I'll be in touch. And we're like, okay, let me know if I can help you. I mean, tell them, say, this is what we do. This is what we do. You're not going to find anybody that will do a better job than us. I've already told you how we're different than all the other companies. You got to have your presentation down, and then you simply hand them the pen, and say, why don't we go ahead and I like to make a suggestion. Let's go ahead and let me get started to work out here tomorrow and get rid of these things for you, where you don't have to think about them anymore. You're going to be happy with my company, and we're going to get rid of the problem. Can we go ahead and do that now and get that taken care of, so you don't have to worry about it anymore, and you don't have to look around and keep going through this process? Can we do that? And if you're bold enough to ask for the sale like that, you're going to find that a lot of those people that would have said, let me think about it, will say, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. I like that idea. Let's go ahead and do it. Just asking for the sale flat out will get you more closes, and you'll sell more business. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I really appreciate the opportunity of being able to speak to everybody. And like I say, I work with pest control companies every day in my coaching business. That's the only industry that I work with, and been at it almost 50 years. So you can give me a call anytime if you'd like to talk about your business, and I will be open to any questions you have. I think they're going to show them to me here on the screen, or Brad is going to tell me about them. Whoop, can't hear you.
All right.
There you go.
Working on a new platform, still working out a few kinks there. So my apologies, Hal.
Oh, that's okay. I was in panic before I went on today because I couldn't figure out which button to push. I'm not a technical person.
Understood. Okay. Hey, so we did get some questions that came in, and we'll continue to field them throughout the Q&A. If you want to just, if folks want to just type those into the Q&A box there, we'll get to as many as we can here before we go on to our next speaker. So Hal, one question that came in was, can you give us an example of unique selling proposition from a well-known company?
Well, my company had a very good, unique selling proposition, and then I teach variations of it to my clients. But I would tell people, for pest control, and it went for rodent work too. I said, look, if one of the was, if you hire me and at the end of 30 days you're not 100% happy, I'm going to come back and retreat your home for free, and I'm going to keep treating your home for free until you tell me you're happy. Now, if that still doesn't make you happy, I'll give you back every penny you spent for the original treatment. Plus, I'll even pay you an additional $25 for your time and trouble. You won't find another company in this town that will make you such a guarantee, but that's how confident I am in the work I do. And also, I told my client, you will have my personal cell phone, and you're welcome to call me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even if I'm on vacation. If it's important enough for you to call me, it's important enough for me to speak with you. So those are things that nobody else, people say, you give people your cell phone? Yeah, but they never call me. So that's an example of being able to find something that nobody else offers. And we don't just do a walk around inspection like a lot of other companies do. We do a complete 58-point pest analysis of your home, inside out, top to bottom. We leave you a report in writing showing you everything we find, and then we make suggestions on how you can correct it.
Hal, a question that came in was, what is the best way to increase sales from an employee standpoint?
From an employee standpoint, if we're talking about salespeople, or maybe from technicians going out and selling, I'm not sure the context there, but train them on how to sell and then hold them accountable. If you want them to sell, you have to hold them accountable, because technicians who are out on pest control routes are not often incentivized to sell, because it cuts into their daily work. They leave home in the morning with a workload and an entire day of pest control route work to do, and they know they're going to be going 90 miles an hour until they leave and get back home, and so the incentive to stop what they're doing and initiate a sales conversation with somebody cuts into their entire day, and it can blow out their whole schedule. So having a system set up so that the leads, they give that lead to somebody else follows up on it and closes it out, and everybody's getting a little piece of the pie. And now, if you're just buying names and phone numbers, so to speak, from your technicians, and then you turn that into a job, and now they're saying, wow, I can get a commission just by talking to somebody and saying, oh, I don't have time to look at that right now, but I'll have Fred Johnson call you this afternoon. But you've got to teach them how to do it. And if you don't know how to sell, you need to learn how to sell so that you can teach it to your employees and then hold them accountable for doing it. Because a lot of them are not going to want to do it because they're satisfied with their job. They're in a routine. They know their job backwards and forwards, and they've been around a while, and they're getting paid a ton of money. They're overpaid and underworked, and they know it, and they're happy, and they don't want anybody messing with that apple cart. I mean, this is just a cold, hard truth. So we have the tendency to say, y'all go out there and sell something today. Okay, we will. No, they don't know how, and we're bad about sending people out to do things that we don't know how to do. Also, I mean, I'm being brutally honest with you here, but that's the only way. Me, that's the way I am. So, but holding them accountable.
A question was, what is the right approach for asking customers for testimonials?
Number one, to ask them, but 90% of the time, you'll never get a testimonial from them. So the best way to do it is to listen for them to give you a testimonial. In other words, In other words, when you go back out there and they say, I had been hearing that noise in the attic for 6 months, and I told Herb, we got to get somebody out here. And when your guys left here, it's been 2 weeks and we haven't heard another peep up there. And I am so happy. Oh, thank you. Would you mind if I use what you just told me as a testimonial? Oh, no, I wouldn't mind. Okay, that would be a great testimonial. I don't want to bother you with it. If you don't mind, I'll write down what you just told me, and then I'll email it to you and let you read it, or I'll call you and run it by me. I'll just write it down. A lot of times they say, just write it down. You don't have to send it to me. Okay, and you just write down what they told you. And now you've got a great testimonial that you actually penned it, but you penned their words, and now you walk away with the testimonial. But if they say, I'll send you one to start with, they never will in most cases. And if they do, it won't be written well at all. So asking for it and then offering to put their words down on paper yourself, which they will really appreciate. And that's the way you get good testimonials.
And Hal, another question that came in about testimonials. Is it better for testimonials to be if they're written instead of or verbal?
Written is great. If you can have a picture attached to it, it would even be better. A video would even be better. In some cases, listen, there are some videos, testimonials I've seen that because of that video testimony, I wouldn't do business for those people because it was scary. It looked like somebody giving a deposition in a murder trial. It was spooky, and so you got to know what you're doing to get a good, you got to be a good producer and director to get a good video testimonial. But here's a powerful thing. Always try include a phone number on the testimonials. Now, because if people see a testimonial that says, Acme Exterminating did a great job for me. They got rid of my rats in 2 days and I haven't seen another one and it's been a whole year. Barbara G. Come on here. Then you give me your last name. But if it says Barbara Gregory, now that's better because now we got a last name. But it says Barbara Gregory, attorney, Atlanta, Georgia. Now that's even better because now I'm believing this is a real person. And if it includes a phone number, now there's a real sneaky way to get the phone number, okay? If you just ask somebody, can I put your phone number on the testimonial so people can call you? Well, no, I don't think so. I don't want you to do that. But if you say, listen, I'm putting together a list of referrals and I would be honored if you would allow me to include you on my referral list in case somebody ever wants to call and check me out. I hope you would tell them that I'm not an axe murderer, but I doubt if anybody will ever call you. Sure, I'd be happy to talk with them. That's fine. Now, they've really given you permission to put their phone number on there because you told them that people are going to call them, right? And so,
yeah.
Now it's okay to put their phone number, and they've given you permission to do it without you just blatantly asking. Does that make that's kind of a sneaky thing to do, Yeah. But I've never had any problem with it, and I've never had anybody complain. I've used it hundreds of times through the years. Testimonials, almost all of them have the phone numbers, and people will call me up, and I'll run into somebody that says, "Yeah, I had a guy call and ask me about you the other day," where some client of mine, past client, will call and say, "Is Fred Johnson your client yet?" And I said, "No, well, he's going to be because he called me and I talked to him for a long time." See, if people call and talk to your customers, that customer's going to sell the rat job for you every time because, if they're happy, they want people to use you because it confirms the decision they made to do business with you. Makes them feel better if you do business with them.
Hey, we got one more question for you here. We'll see if we'll try to squeeze in here. And that a question came in. It was saying we're having, even by incentivizing technicians, it's still challenging to get them to sell. How do you motivate them to do it?
Well, you can set up one way is to put a whiteboard up in the office with everybody's name on it and the number of sales they make every day. So that's like putting the scoreboard up there. And you'll see that every time they walk into the office, the first thing they do is they look at that whiteboard up there and they see who sold what yesterday. And when they start having goose eggs by there every day and other people are selling, now we know we got a problem. So you can call that technician in and say, Bob, I've noticed, you haven't sold anything this month. Everybody else is selling. What's going on here? Do you need help? And then you're going to find out that you have an employee that doesn't know how. They're simply they just need a little training and coaching on the technique. And now they start bringing in sales. Or you have some technician who's, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm just not going to do it. And maybe they don't come out and say that to your face, but when you realize you have a technician that's not going to do it simply because they don't want to, it's an inconvenience. And that's not why I was hired to sell. I was hired to go out and treat houses. And so when you run into that obstinate attitude, now you have a decision. Do you just put up with that, or do you replace that person and with somebody else who is looking to grow with the company and help the company grow? So yeah, that's a challenging thing. You're going to have some that won't do it, and they just won't do it simply because they're just not going to do it, by golly. And now you got another problem.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Well, that's all the questions we had for you, Hal, but I appreciate you being a part of our event today and sharing some of your insights into marketing and specifically, marketing and selling your rodent control services.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Great. Thanks.